Hello everybody and welcome to the British Pint. My name is Christoph and today we're brewing a very special, traditional or historically accurate beer that is called Mead Stout. Now, I've been researching this for quite a while because it's such a bizarre and obscure thing, and apparently in 1923 there was a brewery who brewed beer where meat was added during the boil so that it would be extracted and that parts of the juices and the meat flavor would be in the beer. That was back in the time when nourishing stouts were really popular, like the milk stout that was recommended for invalids and nursing mothers. Please do not, if you're nursing, drink beer. And then you had the oatmeal stouts, which barely contain any oatmeal, and they were also advertised for invalids. And they had the meat stout, which was just fortifying, strengthening, stuff like that. So it might be a coincidence that today is the 1st of April, where I'm uploading this. It's not while I'm brewing, so I have no idea whether this will turn out good or bad. Maybe it's just a joke, maybe it will actually be a tasty beer. There have been reports of this historical beer by Martin Cornell, so he has the recipe basically analysed. After some time what they did was not put meat in the boil anymore, but they actually had a caramel that contained beef extract. So that was a sugar made specifically for them, and that would be used to colour the beer and to flavour it. There is the descendant of that brewer who cooperated with the brewery to make this very recently, in 2019. And they used something that is called Bovril, which is a British beef extract. Now, I tried to search for a German stock base or something like a beef extract containing stock, and none of them are similar to this. So this actually contains 50% of beef extract, while standard stocks are 2%, 5%, something like that. And then most of the rest is 25% yeast extract, 11% salt, and then a bit of extras. The yeast extract is apparently really good for yeast health, yeast propagation, so it multiplies a lot and you get a lot of yeast in your fermenting vessel. If you're a vegetarian, you want to try that, something similar might be obtained with Marmite. I might try that in the future, but I'm not sure because it will taste a bit like vegetables, like celery and stuff like that. That's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for beef flavor, and we'll see how this turns out. So I'm going to try something similar to the historic recipe, but I also checked how the modern recipe was. We don't get all the details, but there are hints, and as usual, I'm trying to make something interesting out of that. So I already crushed the grains and mashed in. That's why I don't have the grains here, but I did take videos of everything, so you see that in the old recipe it says that you have 7% of each amber malt, brown malt, and black malt. And for the amber malt I'm using the Swain Biscuit, Honey Biscuit is the name. I heard that this has sometimes a harsh off flavor. I'll see how that works out. I haven't used it before, I think, or maybe years ago. It is a bit older and I bought it crushed, so I'm not sure what the quality is. Then my brown malt is even older, I think 5 years now. It might be one of the first ones I bought. Perfect for a recipe like this where I do not know whether it will turn out fine. But I also never really noticed any problems with very old crushed grains, as long as they're not your base malt, which needs to have active enzymes. And then black malt, I noticed in the modern recipe they not only use black malt but also a bit of roasted barley, and coincidentally I only had 6% of black malt still there, 60 grams for my 1 kilo that I'm going to use for these for the brew I'm making today. Everything very easily calculable, and so I used 6% of black malt and 1% of roasted barley. My base malt, they use Maris Otter. I only had Golden Promise at hand, and then I used a bit of the Best Alexis, one of the new malts that they have with a more traditional, older malt variety that is a bit protein forward. Just chuck that in. I think I needed just 16% of that Alexis because I did not have enough Golden Promise, and so we arrive at some 40% Golden Promise or something. You will hopefully see that all listed here in a very detailed and sorted manner. Then what they used to have is 40 grams per liter in the traditional recipe of sugars, so tons of sugars. What they did in the new one is they used black treacle, so I'm going to use that again. I recently used that in Young's Winter Warmer, which is actually the beer that I have here. So you see that this is really nice, reddish, dark, beautiful color. And that one used 6%. And now I'm not sure if I really should use 16% of treacle because that's going to be a lot. I think I'm going to go with 10%, which is almost double. I'm going to count this as 12% of my grain bill because it contains more extract than I get from my malt, just to even everything out of it. I'm going to add 2 grams per liter of Bovril. This is what they did in the modern recipe as well. And potentially you can try to use Marmite, we'll see. And that's pretty much the grain bill and all the stuff that goes into the whirlpool later. sugars in the whirlpool, and I'm not sure how much extract this gives. It doesn't have proper nutrition information. Oh, actually it's up there. Shall we have a look? It's on the lid. Whoever came up with this. Can't even peel it off. Yeah, not gonna do that. I think you can Google this stuff, but it will have a few grams of extract, which is not really worth it. I mean, the yeast extract is gonna vanish and be turned into yeast, so that's not gonna be in the beer, and then maybe some carbohydrates. Who knows? Okay, let's discuss the water next. I'm going to use my standard water adjustment for the stouts, a bit of lactic acid to get the hydrogen carbonate down, and some calcium chloride to get the chlorides up. There might be some chloride added by the beef extract, as I said, 11% of salt, but this is really negligible, tiny amounts of salt that are added overall. Now the hopping, they say they use Goldings, Fuggle and Northern Brewer. And the order that is stated sounds a bit like Northern Brewer as the aroma hop. I'm not yet sure what I'm going to do. You might have a look at the list here on the left, what exactly I'm going to do in terms of hopping. Something clever would be to have a neutral bittering hop and then maybe some aroma hop. Maybe go with Northern Brewer. It's a bit more spicy, vegetable. Yeah, just something that's not as fruity as others, like East and Golding. That's pretty much it. So with this one, with all the yeast extract in the solution, I can use a yeast that's a bit more tired. I'm not sure yet which one I want to use. I might use the Barclay Perkins yeast that I have. It will grow a lot, which will be nice, but it might be difficult to harvest afterwards with all that stuff in there. You know, you don't want to have random beef extract in your wort that you might chuck into the next beer when you pitch the yeast. So not 100% sure what I'm going to do there. I have some other really old yeast, but I think they're too old. I might not want to do that. So maybe Barclay Perkins, it will be on the list here. I haven't used the Barclay Perkins in a really warm fermentation yet. I did do a starter and I kept some of that starter to taste it. I haven't done that yet. It was a hopped starter, so it's a bit like proper beer. Looking forward to try that out. I think it smelled a bit like apricot when fermenting. So yeah, no idea what fruits this gives in. You can just use SO4, who cares? But the problem is if you use a very vital dry yeast and then you give it yeast extract, it might just multiply enormously. And then first of all, you get a very bland beer because you have so much yeast. And the yeast tends to really crawl out of your fermenter if you use this stuff, apparently. Alright, so that would be about it. As I said, I have 1 kilogram of total fermentables. I used 4 liters of mash liquor, 3 liters of sparge liquor. Standard procedure, I'm mashing at 67 degrees. And then I'm going to boil for 60 minutes, 90 minutes, something like that. And that's pretty much the whole story. So I'm going to show you the clips of my brew day after this. And then immediately afterwards comes the tasting, because I have a feeling that this might be interesting for a lot of people and they want to see one video and not two. So I'll see you later for the tasting, which will be in a couple of weeks. And then bye-bye. So here's the wort with the yeast pitched already. Something that I found quite remarkable is that when I added the Bovril in the last 10 minutes of the wort, of the boil, together with the second hop addition and the treacle, it actually dissolved all the trop completely. I didn't have any trop left in the cooled wort. I'm not sure what chemical reaction happened there, but it was really strange and quite remarkable to see. The other thing is that the flavor is already quite different. I would say that it tastes far less bitter than other worts have, especially those with 40 IBU. We'll see what the tasting shows. So, I hope you enjoyed the clips of how I brewed 4 weeks ago. Today is Easter Sunday, which is just one day before I want to upload this video. We'll see how quickly I can edit everything. I'm really curious how this beer turned out. I had decent attenuation and just normal fermentation with that Barclay Perkins yeast that I used. I'm not 100% sure if this is going to turn out perfectly clear. Yeah, with age it probably would. So now just checking how it behaves 4 weeks after fermenting, and I can already smell a lot of the black treacle fruity flavors. So high black treacle content. I just recently tasted the Young's Winter Warmer with 6% black treacle, and now it was 10%. Yeah, we'll see what this one is like. Yeah, noticeable licorice smell. This one also has a higher OG than the Winter Warmer I did recently, because the Winter Warmer I accidentally diluted. Quite a good roastiness, complex note. This seems to be a beer where the molasses or the black treacle fits much better. Just together with all the dark malts, it's much more fitting in the complexity. Yeah, so obviously I cannot smell any beef, and I'm very curious to see if I can taste any. I took this one out of the out of the fridge half an hour ago to make sure that it is somewhat warmed up, because that is what I need to get the smell out of there. And we'll see whether I can get any beef paste taste out of it. Quite sweet. Roasty bitterness is there. Yeah, so something that I noticed with the beer while I was brewing it, the Bovril really somehow destroys all the trap and all the alpha acids. So I do not notice any hop bitterness, which is really bizarre. Not sure. It might be that there is hop bitterness, but I can't distinguish it from the roast bitterness. But normally I really can, so that's really strange. And the flavor in the beginning is really nice, very full, fruity from the black treacle. Then it gets roasty, very nice, and then it gets harsh, not so nice. Really not good. So I did a mistake there. Normally, following the original recipe, this should have gone into the whirlpool, and I put it in the boil for 10 minutes. And maybe that is one part of the problem. Maybe you shouldn't boil this, no idea. Especially how the interaction with the wort works, I'm not sure. Okay, so let's see if this one is clear. It's actually pretty clear. I can see a good centimeter into the glass before it turns too dark. It's very dark. Lots of dark ingredients because of the added black treacle, which is also really dark. It was 7%, right? Yeah, 7% black malt. I've never done that before, so that is definitely too much. I wouldn't do that again. I would do 5% of each of the roasted malts: amber malt, brown malt, and black malt. Yeah, that's a bit of a pity. I was hoping for it to taste much better, because it's just really, really astringent. Really not nice. There might be a bit of a brothy note in between, a bit like broth, but very quickly vanishing again. Not sure if I can detect that. I could have a whiff to see what it smells like, to see if I'm looking for the right thing. Really smells like meat. The problem is, of course, that with 2 grams per liter, it's just a negligible amount, so it's really not that much. Yeah, maybe it's there in the middle for half a second and then vanishes again. Very faint. As I said in the beginning, the most important part here is that this is one of those nourishing stouts where a lot of the ingredients were marketing, like the less than 1% oatmeal in the oatmeal stouts back then, which nobody does nowadays. They all do 25% oatmeal and stuff like that. And yeah, maybe the same should apply for this one, either much more of the meat or nothing at all. Yeah, so I hope you liked this video and enjoyed it. Not 100% an April Fool joke, but I thought a beer like this is a good beer to show on the 1st of April. So I'll see you next time when we brew something proper that's actually tasty. I think it will be the New England IPA, my very first New England IPA that I ever did, the one that won the German competition last year. That will be the next recipe, but I might actually put that tasting of different starters with different yeasts that I also recorded by now first. So you'll find out next time. See you then. Bye bye.